Hello and welcome back for 12th episode, if I'm not mistaken, guys.
I
No, it's
think
11.
11th? Is it? Okay. Well, I can't keep track. Also, I wasn't here last week. So we have a full team today. Lotus, Raptor Skull, and Ruthless.
What's
So
up?
today's topic is one that most of us pretty much know, minus one of us, and that would be Steven Universe. I think a lot of
boy.
us were pretty much like growing up when it was basically being released on Cartoon Network at the time, weren't we? I believe.
Uh-huh.
I don't
hmm
remember the exact years and it was like coming out. I think I was just out of high school, or yeah, I think I was coming out of high school at that point. I
I
don't
was
really
in
remember.
like grade 5 or 6 when the show started.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look this up because now I'm curious. But I think we all know at this point, good old Steven Universe. The story of a magical boy with powers from his mother. Okay, so I was finishing up high school because it came out in 2013.
God,
Gosh,
it's
this
that old?
it's that old. The first episode was released November 4th, 2013.
Oh,
God.
Jesus.
So yeah, no, I was in my last year of high school when this thing came out.
Like
Oh
grade
boy.
5.
Man, what does that say? We're getting old, guys.
Yeah, I feel old now, and I'm not.
Bitch, I'm the oldest of all you guys here.
Yeah, still, I feel old.
Please. Once you have the problem, like the health problems of a 60-year-old, come talk to me, and then I'll actually consider that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's
Am I
insane.
allowed to am I allowed to talk about this given the fact that I have the knees of a middle-aged man?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, one of
Uh,
my friends has had arthritis like almost all her life, so she knows that pain. we're we're all like in our 20s, roughly. I mean, those ones aren't, but
I
yeah.
mean, I'll be 20 in like a couple of weeks, so.
Oh well, happy early birthday, because I'm gonna forget.
hmm
Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Steven Universe, and like I said, three of us, excluding Raptor, because Raptor has yet to truly experience the world.
Word.
um, okay, good. You don't you don't argue there. But me, Skull, and Ruthless have seen this show, and I'm pretty sure we all have mixed feelings on the show in general, as well as the characters. And I could probably be the first to say that watching the show when it was coming out was good, but then when you go back to try and rewatch it, you're like, this isn't as good as I remember it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Um, I didn't really watch much when it was like airing like early on. I started just like watching a few episodes here and there or whatever, and yeah, I stopped watching after I saw Frybo.
Which was still pretty early
I,
on. I think that was still like season one, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
that was still season 1, but like it was a rerun or something, but it was enough that I was just like, yeah, no. And I didn't go
Did
back
sh-
until I think a couple years ago to actually start trying to watch it.
and how's that been going? That whole process.
Um, I got a few episodes past Frybo and Nope Don't.
Oh, again? Jeez. So then how's your exposure been to the franchise?
I'd watch like reruns or whatever when it was on Cartoon Network, so I have like context for a few different seasons
But
and
what about
future.
yeah, like I was about to say, like what about some of the later seasons when the plot really started picking up and things like that?
Oh yeah, I know a lot about the the plot thickening stuff.
Okay, because
Um,
we're really gonna get into that today. Because I just wanted to like see if who's gonna be able to bounce off me for that. What about you,
uh,
Ruthless? How's your exposure to the franchise been?
I remember it. It's very vivid in my it's vivid. I would have to have
Is it
to
one of
remember.
those things that lives rent free in your head all the time?
It's like in the background of my head. It is, and I remember in my father, he would have the TV playing all the time, even while he's sleeping.
That's a
So I
mood.
would
Oh
always
my
remember
god.
sleeping, and he leaves the one network. Guess which network he would always leave on?
Cartoon Network.
Yes.
But wait, wouldn't that go to Adult Swim late at
Yep.
night?
yeah.
And then
that's
come
I
like
mean,
6 in the morning or something like that, it goes back to the originally scheduled cartoons.
they
because I remember.
recently, yeah, I remember they used to do that with another network as well. Because
Nickelodeon.
not Nickelodeon. We never got Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon where I live until God, I was in high school, I think, when they finally actually got both. We had YTV and Teletoon did the same thing where it would like switch to the adult programming after a while.
Well, a lot of so like I said, Nickelodeon did that too. They had the Nick at Night kind of thing where they
Oh
had like
yeah.
all the
Mhm.
adult shows on. It wasn't quite like how Cartoon Network with their Adult Swim is a lot more animated stuff on Cartoon Network, whereas Nickelodeon had a lot more of like the sitcoms and bullshit like that.
I was about to say,
Gross.
yeah, wasn't Nick at Night like more like old shows, sitcoms,
Yeah, like the adult sitcoms. But so
shitty
Ruthless,
ones?
yeah, shitty ones. So Ruthless, regarding so again, like with the whole plot of Steven Universe, the characters and whatnot, do you remember that fairly well?
Decently well. I would have to like have I would have to like give myself some reminders of it,
Well,
and I
you've
would
got me for that, and if you guys are ready, I can do that for you. And Raptor, this will be your first rundown on the series.
All right, here we go. I
All
guess.
right.
up front. The one thing I remembered, like the one thing that I always keep in mind, the first thing I always think of with Steven Universe is Steven Universe itself.
Yeah, that's fair. But all right, so spoiler warnings. But if you haven't been exposed to this franchise and all the fucking shit that came from it, then you've been living under a rock. So Raptor, here's your spoilers. uh,
Ah,
it's gonna be too easy some days. All right. Anyway, so Steven Universe, as we all know, for the most part, Raptor, is about a boy, obviously by Steven Universe, and he is basically a half alien, half human, where he's got his mother's gem lodged in his belly button, in his like stomach, basically. And we're basically told his mother is Rose Quartz throughout the entire series, and we get hints and drops here as Steven goes on wacky adventures with his surrogate mother gems, Pearl, Amethyst, and Garnet up until the point where Homeworld starts trying to come back. Well, the Crystal Gems try to keep this from happening. Homeworld still keeps sending out stuff. And that's when you start learning more about Homeworld, the Rose Quartz, and her rebellion, and why she rebelled and everything. Up until the point where we get even more into Rose Quartz to the point where we start learning more about the diamonds, and of all the diamonds, Pink Diamond, which is the one that Rose Quartz was said to have shattered, which is what caused the corrupted gems of Earth because the diamonds turned their powers on the gems. And Rose Quartz was only able to save uh, Pearl and Garnet. Amethyst had not technically been born, I say born in quotes, had not been born yet, so she was not affected by Diamond's power. But we eventually get the episode A Single Pale Rose, where we learn that indeed what a lot of people had speculated was that Rose Quartz was indeed Pink Diamond, which still has some people being like, how could that be? That can't be. And it's just like, oh well. But and that's when you get in the whole thing where Steven tries to redeem the diamonds, and then they go off to Homeworld because they're like, oh, the only way we can save the corrupted gems is if we get White Diamond too, and then you have that really fast Homeworld arc that basically concludes the entire series. But and then you have the movie, which is really trying to paint Pink Diamond in a bad light, where she basically told her play toy Spinel to stand there completely still and don't move, and Spinel did for about what was it, 5,000-6,000 years, something along those lines.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
I don't
And
know.
yeah, so Spinel stood there and she eventually saw the message of Steven being like, hey, I'm Pink Diamond's son. She's gone, but I'm here. And this is a whole new era for gems. And Spinel's like, what the fuck, man? So she goes in to destroy Earth. Basically, technically, she should have destroyed it. But, plot armor. So, all that fun stuff. And then Future is basically Steven dealing with the now developing trauma of 2 years prior when he was 14. Because to be fair, he
Now
did go
developing or now surfacing?
both. I don't know, because like you saw some hints during the main show, but like he wore it well. You couldn't really tell, and then he just kind of like shrugged it off. And I'm like, I don't know. It feels like he handles this way too well, like far better than I could ever handle trauma.
Yeah.
He's a cartoon character. He's
I
the
don't
main
mean shit.
hero.
He's a cartoon character.
It don't mean shit. I've got so many examples against that, but no, yeah. So it's basically it. I mean, Steven Universe Future was like the actual finale to the series, which had him leaving his like the home of Beach City and whatnot. So I will say, for what it was rather, I'd say, revolutionary at the time, because the biggest thing it did bring with it, Raptor, was LGBT representation more to the forefront,
Oh.
especially with Garnet, because in the show, before we're actually
Gay
really.
relationship.
Yes. So Garnet is actually a fusion, and in the show Raptor, fusions are two gems combined. Think of like Dragon Ball, how like I believe it's Dragon Ball where like they can fuse.
Oh yeah, fusion! Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that. It's like that.
It's basically that. So whenever two gems fuse, they become a different gem. So and Garnet was the combination of a ruby and a sapphire to make, well, Garnet. And this is usually like a whole new creation when it's two different gems. If it's the same gem, they just make a bigger version of that gem. And it seems like they kind of keep themselves, like their own personalities, when they fuse like that way. But when it's a whole, like two different gems, it's a whole different person, essentially. Until the two gems start showing, and then, yeah, that's like a whole different thing. But
I love
So,
early
basically-
season Ruby, or early series Ruby.
at least what we saw from like how early are we talking? That's my question.
The first time I was exposed to Ruby was when they went to the hotel.
Oh, the Keystone Keystone Motel. I love that. I love that episode. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
You know the context of what that one, right? Of that episode, like what would happen prior to it?
It was like the whole like uh, Sugalite and Sardonyx thing, right?
Yeah, pretty
With
much. So, because Garnet takes
yeah.
fusion very seriously, and when she learned that Pearl was fixing the tower on purpose just to form into Sardonyx with Garnet, Garnet took that very personal. So she was basically mad at Pearl, and when she left with Steven and his father to the Keystone State, staying in a motel, they finally unfused, and you could see them fighting. So Ruby's like this like this hothead, and she's just like, how could you stay so calm? She betrayed us. And Sapphire's just like, it's all in the past. It's fine. So I love Sapphire more than
Evaporates the
anything.
pool.
But I will say my first exposure
Evaporates.
to Ruby was when the Homeworld gems actually came to Earth. That's when we actually saw Jasper too for the first time, and Jasper's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh no, wait, I did see that. I did see that episode first. I just
Blocked it out of memory.
I don't know. I've seen so few. I've seen so few episodes. Yes, Garnet's song.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's also another thing to keep in mind, Raptor. It's a semi-musical.
It's
There's-
beautiful.
I mean, I don't mind musicals so
Says the
long
man
as
who
like
won't watch Disney movies.
I mean,
because they're musicals.
there are a few,
Exactly.
there are a few exceptions.
Hypocrite.
Didn't sound like it during our Disney episode.
Okay. There is one musical that I will admit I like. All Dogs Go to Heaven. It's not a Disney movie, it's MGM, but whatever.
Damn good thing you didn't say Cats. If it was the movie adaptation of Cats, I would have strangled you.
Man, I couldn't bring myself to watch Cat.
Okay, the original. We're getting off topic. We'll continue this later.
I'm just sitting back and listening, just waiting for you guys to finish. Anyway, so no, the show was very revolutionary on that forefront because this did come out in the early 2010s, and again, LGBT representation was not anywhere near as well, it's more common now, I would say, but it was very much implied back then. It's why even things like bubbling and the hints of it through Adventure Time back then were like huge because it wasn't something that we saw very often. So to see things in Steven Universe that were very much on the forefront, like Garnet was very much a gay relationship because technically the gems don't actually have genders. They do identify as she, and both Ruby and Sapphire identify as she. So they were technically a LGBT couple.
Ah,
Another example, obviously, is Pearl with her, well, her love for Rose Quartz, who, of course, is Pink Diamond. That one's very clear. That one's very clear to see. So, um, it's probably the biggest ones. There's not really too many others. You might get some hints here and there. I know. I believe in Future they introduced some other things. I think I don't know per se, so I'm sorry if I do get this wrong because I didn't actually watch all of Future. Because by the time it came out, I was so done with the series. I'm just like, no more. I'm done. I tap out. I believe Lars is trans. I could be wrong. I think that's right, but I could be wrong.
It sounds like something, 'cause I remember people freaking out. There was also, like, on the topic of that, I remember there was, like, some mention at some point that Amethyst experimented with, like,
You cut out there.
for a while.
Yeah, you're cutting out massively.
I remember there was, like, a point as well where it was, like, briefly mentioned that Amethyst had experimented with a more masculine appearance and male pronouns.
I remember a few episodes where she was
Yes.
taking on the appearance
Wait.
of like
No.
Purple Puma just to like fight, but that was about it. She was a shapeshifter she liked to shapeshift in general. It was just something
Yeah.
she found enjoyable. I do remember that.
I always thought she was gender fluid. Like maybe gender fluid. Like on the maybe spectrum. But
I just kind of saw her as herself, her loud, rambunctious self that just liked to use her powers because it's fun.
Yeah.
mm,
She kind of strikes me more like. Granted, I was like, that was like part of me, and I also kind of thought she kind of reminds me of like Loki, but
I can see it.
less weird.
So we'll go into the plot as we
don't
talk
think
about
that-
this, but I want to hear what you guys think of the characters. And we'll be starting with the protagonist himself, Steven.
I mean, honestly, I will say I found it slightly amusing when with Steven's gym being in his belly button.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just did.
Noted. Alright, Skull and Ruthless, what do you think of Steven?
Steven is a semi-chaotic dork, and I love it.
Ruthless?
Personality wise, like he can be very chaotic, but I just kind of found the whininess sometimes can get really annoying. But
But he's a little. He's like, well, not like a little kid, but he's a kid,
He's
and
14.
he's like.
okay, yeah, that it would like kind of lessen the score of annoying. So admittedly, I kind of don't care for kids overall, but because he's a kid, I would definitely lower that score. But I think he's.
I mean, I
the
wouldn't even
score-
call him a kid. He's more of a teenager. Because he's like I said, he's 14.
Well, I
He's
mean,
like 13,
he is a
14.
teenager.
Yeah.
Just
So, like,
early teens.
Yeah, he's still early teens, but he's still a teenager. And I don't know, like, if he actually was younger, I might be able to tolerate his antics a little bit more. But it just kind of annoys me after a while. I'm just like, why are you the way you are?
I mean, there are some early teens that can be quite annoying.
All kids are
I
annoying
can't
to a
really
raptor.
I can't say anything because like for a very long time my energy was very much like Steven. And so it's just like I relate to it because even in like middle school going into the first year of high school I was still like that. Just the chaotic like the chaotic childish antics that is, not the like whiny.
But it's because for me, being around that age from like the middle school going into high school thing, I was not that type of person. I wasn't around those type of people either. They would have their moments, but they never were childish antics. They were just chaotic antics. But even then, it was very self-contained amongst the friend group, and there were very minor things too. But overall, I was around a more, I wouldn't say even mature, but more disciplined group, I guess is the best way to put it. Not mature, but disciplined. So it's kind of, I really think that's why Steven grates on me a little bit, because I'm like, I don't like this. And even when going back and trying to rewatch it, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, Steven is probably my least favorite part of the show. And that gets worse in
Yikes.
future, and it gets worse for me when he discovers his mom is Pink Diamond, because at that point I have a big issue with the show, but we'll get into that a little bit more later.
I kind of had to I kind of will agree. Like Steven was kind of like the more annoying aspect of the show, but I was like, like I kind of tolerated it. I thought it was tolerable.
I could tolerate it, but again, like I said, when it came to his discovery that his mom was Pink Diamond, that's when I had a big issue with the show and how he and everyone else I felt like reacted to the news and her portrayal and just treatment as a whole. Because it felt very. Okay, look. Do you guys have anything else to say on Steve Universe, or we good to move into Rose Quartz Pink Diamond? Because I'm about to go off on a tangent.
Good. Go off, Lotus. Go off.
Okay.
Go on.
Thank you. All right. So Rose Quartz. Oh wait, Ruthless. Go ahead.
No, I said have fun.
Oh, okay. All right. So Rose Quartz is the first that we're introduced to as Steven's mom. That she was a quartz soldier that rebelled against her diamond to save the people of Earth from the gem invasion. How it was, what was it, like a 1,000-year war or something like that? It was a long war, basically. And we learned later on it came to an end when Rose Quartz shattered Pink Diamond. Now, we obviously aren't told all this out of the bat. We are seeing hints of it throughout the series, and we're also told, and kind of shown how Rose was this very soft spoken, gentle kind of gem, and it was very enticing, a very motherly type. And then, obviously, as the show goes on, Steven discovers about his mother's powers and things like that. And amongst the first hints is that he does have a lot of powers for something that's supposed to be just a quartz soldier. And like talking like we're mentioning the episode where the homeworld gems actually do come, where it's Jasper, Lapis, and Peridot. Whenever Jasper attacks Steven, he's left with nothing but just a bruise, like a black eye. For something that could have like cracked his skull or worse, he just has a bruise. It says like he's stronger. And like a whole bunch of other instances and whatnot. But it, like I said, it's not till a single pale rose that we see through Pearl's memories that Pink Diamond was Rose Quartz, and of course vice versa. Now, again, a lot of people saw this coming. A lot of people were surprised. I was kind of in that it could be true, but I'm not holding my breath. But then when it came time for the reveal, I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool. I really like that. So, and this is where I have issue. So Rose Quartz is painted as a hero, a war hero on top of that. How she was a fearless leader, she made the sacrifices that no one else could make, and she did this righteous thing that was for the betterment of everyone else. But the moment that it was Pink Diamond, she was villainized. And that's where I have issue with it. I get that you can kind of see them as two different characters, but the way I see it is Pink Diamond grew, And the fact that she's seen as this horrible person is wrong to me. She started off as a brat. Like, she was a kid when we first see her in some of the flashbacks and Steven's memories of her. Like, her memories
Mhm.
coming through to him. Like, we see she's very selfish and bratty. The whole dream where, like, Yellow Diamond was, like, Connie's mother and how she was running a colony through Pink's memories. And Stevani was Pink, essentially, and how, like, she's just screaming, I want my own colony. I want it now. I want to be treated just like you guys because I am just like you guys. You get that very bratty behavior. But at the same time, when you see the flashes of how she was treated by the other diamonds, you can also see why she would eventually break free and all that pent up frustration and anger. It made sense that she would rebel. But it just comes off later at feeling like they blame her for the rebellion. And I'm sitting here like, something doesn't feel right here. Which then later gets worse. Again, like with it's also a big reason why I don't like the Steven Universe movie. It's not bad by any means, but it's just the way that they treat Pink. And again, they take what she did when she was technically a child, because she had that child mindset, and just make her seem really bad. Like, should she have told Spinel to stand there for like 6,000 years? No, she shouldn't have. But how was she supposed to know Spinel would just stand there the entire time? For a gem that's supposed to be very high energy, always wanting to play and move around, she'd figure Spinel would eventually, leave, or maybe she'd eventually come back, or stuff like that. Like, you never know what's gonna happen, so I don't really hold Pink completely at fault for that, because again, Spinel could have done something eventually as she stood there for 6,000 years, just about.
So dumb bitch
Yeah.
just stood there for 6,000 years waiting. Okay, any moment now.
Pretty much, like, wondering,
Yeah.
oh, am I doing this right? Am I playing the game right? And I'm like, you can leave. You can. Like, no
God,
one's really telling you
it's
to stay
like
here.
Bitch,
it's
just
like
go
a
home.
it's like a puppy waiting for their owner to come home, except for the fact that the owner doesn't come home and the puppy can't die.
Pretty much. That's pretty much
Yeah.
exactly what it is. And again, like, I don't blame Pink for that because you never know what's gonna happen. I don't think, because clearly she didn't go into this wanting to obviously carry out a rebellion. In fact, she was perfectly fine with carrying out the Diamond's wishes and playing her role as a Diamond. If anyone should have anything to, like, have any blame laid at their feet, which don't really, because it's like, don't blame her. She's the victim, and Pearl. So
Hmm.
Pearl has her own thing, but when you think about it, the only reason why Pink Diamond rebelled was because of Pearl. Pearl was the one that gave her the idea to like take on the appearance of a Rose Quartz. And it was Pearl who basically took Rose on this tour of Earth and made her realize, like, we're not creating life from nothing. We're taking it away and making our own life, essentially. So
Yeah.
Pearl really kicked that off. And yeah, I didn't really like that. Like, you kind of like oversee that and you just blame Pink for everything. Like, everything she's done is her fault. Like, all the corrupted gems, her fault. The rebellion, her fault. Steven's trauma, her fault. It's just awful because I remember one scene from the movie where it's when Spinel remembers again what happened and everything. And Steven's just like, I can't believe my mom would do that. And he's like, wait, never mind. I totally believe it. I'm like, are you fucking with me?
Oh my god.
It's why it bothers me so much. Like, it feels like they literally went out of their way to make Pink Diamond a villain when she wasn't. I'd label her more of an anti hero, if anything, because she was a hero. But again, there was a cost. And that's what really makes it fun for me is that Greg said it probably best because I believe he was the one that said this. I believe it was this one in particular. How there's no winners in war; it just decides who's left.
Hmm.
Yep.
And that's ultimately,
Exactly.
of course, what happened with Rose Quartz and everything, and why she never really wanted to talk about it and everything like that. Because, again, it's a time of her life that she probably didn't want to remember. Like, to her, she was free. She didn't have to worry about the diamonds anymore. They were gone. Like, she was technically gone. She wasn't Pink anymore. She was Rose. So, and then, like, the whole, oh, she told Pearl never to speak of it again. I'm like, okay. And personally, for me, as someone who doesn't like it when people bring up things I've done as a child or a teenager for that matter, how I'd much rather keep moving forward than looking back. I can see why Pink would do this. She doesn't want to go back
Yeah.
to being a diamond. She doesn't want to be reminded of this time. Did she
Hmm.
anticipate Steven at the time? No, she didn't. She didn't think any of this would happen. She just was living she's kind of living in the moment as the general, this leader of a rebellion. She was doing what she believed was best for the people she was leading.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
Yeah.
later down the line it was detrimental. However, she couldn't have known this at the time. And I understand like how
She's not a.
well, you have Sapphire, who part of Garnet obviously is obviously a site like a farseer, but that's a whole nother can
Yeah.
of worms. That's a whole nother can of
Yeah, I was gonna
worms.
say she's not a Sapphire.
Yeah, she's not the Sapphire, but it's clear Garnet has that that ability, but it comes and goes. It comes in waves anyway. But even Sapphire said she didn't ever think to look into Pink Diamond either. So you get that little bit, but it just bothers me. Because we see all this build up, how everyone looked up to Rose, how Rose was the hero. Rose led the rebellion and shattered a diamond and basically freed Earth from their grasp. But then when it shifts into Pink Diamond, that's when it feels like people are blaming her for what happened. Like, she shouldn't have done what she did. She caused this for the corrupted gems. Like, she told Spinel never to, basically, to never leave, to stay in one spot. And, um, oh, or even when Future, it's like really one of the few episodes I actually watched. This one is when they released the Rose Quartz soldiers from the bubbles, because Blue Diamond had kept them in bubbles because it was one of the few things she had left of her precious Pink Diamond. And even they blamed Rose for what happened. It's like, it's because of her we were bubbled, because she took on our appearance. And I'm like, we don't always think of the consequences of our actions. We think of a certain smaller scale, but we also don't always think of the larger scale of what happens. We
Yeah.
don't always think about the effect that we'll have on others.
Mhm.
And
Another thing is, again, like you said, Pink was still technically like a child going into like teenager
yeah,
mentality.
like
So
her rebellion was her rebellious phase, literally. Like, becoming Rose Quartz was that rebellious phase for Pink. That was the moment she broke free from her parents, essentially, and did her own thing. She became her own person. And it was through living on Earth she became an adult, essentially. I still find it funny how I say this, how it's she, despite how much they demonize her, how much they make her out to be a villain, and how they try, like, obviously how they hype up the other gems and Steven and everything. The thing that gets me is they go through some changes, but they're almost small in comparison. Because, like Steven, for example, you see how he does change. I'll give him that. Like, he does change a little bit. He becomes a little more fearless, a little more powerful, a little more sure of himself, but he's still the same kooky kid, pretty much, throughout the entire
yeah.
series. Uh,
Yeah.
Pearl does learn to become a little more independent and free thinking and able to, like, obviously fight for herself. But there's still that love for Rose there. Like, she still hasn't completely changed. She's still holding on to the past a little bit, but while also still moving forward. Garnet's Garnet. I mean, Garnet's Garnet. And Amethyst is
Yeah.
Amethyst. Like, if anything, Amethyst just became a little more responsible and began to love herself more. But otherwise, still stay the same. If anything, Rose Quartz Pink Diamond was the most human, in quotes, because she went through the biggest changes in the story. She went from this kid who didn't really fit in, with her other diamonds, always loving organic creatures and getting in trouble a lot and always being sent to this like basically holding cell for her where she was always put in detention and things like that, where she's basically just kind of like put on a pedestal and expected to act all nice and pretty until she wasn't. And then when she was actually given a chance to be an adult, she realized the faults and couldn't keep going. Hit the rebellion phase, actually started a rebellion, and it was through living on Earth, trying to rally up the corrupted gems and just living amongst humans, did she actually learn to be an adult. And then it was Greg that was the final nail in the coffin that really taught her love and everything, to the point where she was willing to sacrifice herself so she could give birth to her son, who then later blames her for everything.
Yeah, this kind of was the one thing that you kind of recalled the one thing I kind of thought is just did not make sense of like the whole Steven hating his mother. Like, bro. Well, not hating, but like blaming his mother. I'm like, bro.
Right, like, so that's probably my biggest thing is like, because I remember one episode where he went into Rose's room because he just wanted to see her, and like obviously the room created a version of Rose, and I think it was also did another episode as well where he's starting to feel like she only gave birth to him so she could deal with his problems or her problems, and I'm sitting here like, Steven, it's not
Oh my
her
God.
fault that her past is just now coming back. Like, that's probably the biggest thing that, again, it bothers me because Rose didn't know this would happen. She figured it was all done and gone. The diamonds were never coming back. They obviously, like, nothing else would happen. She had no idea about the cluster or anything like those lines. She thought she was free. They all thought they were free until they weren't, and then Steven just had to be the one to deal with it because he had her gem.
Yeah, that's a little fucked up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. That's why it makes it hard for me to watch in hindsight. And even with the mentality I have now, because maybe when I was younger, I'd agree a little more with Steven, but having reached that point where my brain is now finally fully developed, which doesn't stop till you're 25, so have fun, guys. Um,
Mm.
I see now in a much more different light how that is, and just you can't always be able to predict the future like Garnet/Sapphire can. Like you never know when stuff is just gonna go wrong down the line. You just live for the moment that you have, and whatever happens tomorrow, you deal with it tomorrow. Essentially,
I mean, didn't Sapphire also kind of learn that lesson in a sense at some point in the show?
I could not tell you yes or no on that. I really couldn't.
I just vaguely remember the whole like I got so caught up on like what I see in the future that I forgot about now.
I think that was the Keystone one too, where she was apologizing to Ruby for basically only looking into the future and ignoring the present and how Ruby was feeling at the moment, because she kept looking into the future and seeing how everything would be fine then. She'd be like, oh, it'll work itself out, it'll be fine, essentially. But no, yeah, like a lot of the lessons that kind of are learned can also get unlearned as well. So yeah, it's, I don't know, like that's probably my biggest gripe because I am probably amongst, I want to say the few, but I can't really say. I'm amongst some of the few that really do love Pink Diamond and acknowledge that she did do bad things. However, not in the way that people really make it out to be, essentially. Because, like, yeah, of course, Pink did bad things. She led a rebellion. She led a war. And again, war, there's no victories in war. It just decides who's left. Like, who are the victors? Victors in quotes, essentially. But she did it so people on Earth could have a chance. So Steven could live. That Pearl could be herself. That even Amethyst could live. Like, all this stuff was pointed out in the show. But then the moment it's Pink Diamond, it kind of gets thrown out the window.
Yeah.
which again annoys me.
Like, one thing I kind of hate about Steven Universe is how the show went from like, haha, giant woman's to, oh my god, Pink Diamond is horrible.
Yeah, that really got me. It's like Rose is still on this pedestal for being this amazing person, but Pink Diamond was seen as a villain, and I'm like, you guys realize it's the same character, right?
Yeah.
Like to say that you love Rose and hate Pink means that you still hate Rose too, or you love Pink as well. Like, or basically you do hate Rose because I mean, Pink is Rose, Rose is Pink. There's really no separating them.
Yeah.
Like, sure, Pink became Rose, but she grew. She changed. It's why I say she's the most human and complex and dynamic of all the characters. Because she went through the full cycle of growth from a child
Yeah.
to a teenager to an adult. But we
Mhm.
don't really see that with everyone else, and that's my problem. The only time I will actually hold her very accountable, aside, like, again, the war is like a whole different thing because there was a cause, she fought for it, and she was willing to die for it. There are people who rallied behind her, willing to do the same thing. So there's people fighting with her. Again, like, okay, war is bad and everything, but the one thing I will at least hold her to is when she damaged her pearl. You could say she didn't mean to, like, obviously, like, a lot of kids would say that, like, I didn't mean to do it, but it's still pretty bad. You can see that there's still some trauma from her pearl, but it's just doing that and is like irreparable damage too because in the future where they try to take her to like a pearl rejuvenation center, essentially they're just like, oh yeah, this isn't physical damage, this is like emotional damage. And I'm like, oh, lovely.
Oh god,
Uh,
thought of the emotional damage meme.
emotional damage.
Yeah, no, so but yeah, I my gosh, yeah. No, I don't really care for how they treated Pink in the later seasons and everything. And of course, we'll get to the diamonds a little more too, because that makes me sad too how they handled the diamonds. Because they had so much potential, but then of course Cartoon Network obviously stepped in and be like, hey, guess what? You're getting canceled. So you better wrap your shit up. So yeah, it's like a whole nother thing. But
The last arc of Steven Universe could have been so much better if they had just a little bit more time to like explain things a little bit better.
instead of trying to fit it all in like a few episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can kind of blame the
Like
network for
even one
that.
more Yeah. Even one more season would have been enough.
Well, one more season that isn't Future, let's
Like
say that. Because Future
yeah.
did try to wrap up some of those unanswered questions. Like, it brought in the Rose Quartzes, it tried to shoe in Jasper's redemption arc, and things like that. Because I remember when it was being released that Jasper was supposed to be getting a redemption arc, but then it was cut because, the network was just kind of like, hey, guess what? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta.
I guess
Chop, chop.
I think the big issue there was that like Cartoon Network really didn't expect Steven Universe to be what it was when they greenlit it, and I'm pretty sure ratings were starting to drop too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then just the general fight, because again, like with the LGBT stuff, and with Ruby being such, well, not Ruby and Sapphire Garnet being such a big part of the show, a big character, that was also another thing. Because I know a lot of the censorship when it comes to those two, they make Ruby the guy between the two of them.
Yeah.
That's until the
Well,
wedding
did
episode when they
Russia like
had. Yeah,
Yeah.
Russia put a mustache on. Or else, I think a mustache and a beard.
Oh Christ.
Yeah.
Didn't Russia like completely refuse to air the wedding episode?
They might have. That or they just cut out the wedding part. One of the two. But if you guys don't have anything else to say on Rose Quartz or Pink Diamond, why don't we move into the precious little pearl?
Hey, I'm gonna say this now. I hate Pearl.
Ooh, spicy. What about you, Ruthless?
Ooh.
Kind of neutral.
Neutral?
She's kind of neutral opinion. Like I'm kind of neutral. I think like she is kind of not as bad as like Steven, I'm not saying she's as bad as Steven for me, but I will say she is definitely one of the aspects, thinking about it now. Yeah, she was definitely one of the other aspects she was kind of low key, can be annoying, but there's some moments that is pretty decent. I just think if we're gonna say her alone is not like the biggest great thing of like is not as good, but if it's something else, like if she's with someone else, she can bounce off pretty well, in my opinion. Just going off of memory.
Okay. So I will say Pearl is kind of like an in between. Like, I do enjoy her character to a point. So she works well as like the mother for Steven, because let's be honest, it's ultimately what her true like big role is. Like she's the mother to Steven in place of Rose. Um, again, it's kind of that thing where like she feels that she has to be there for him just because she was in love with Rose, and Rose being Pink Diamond, and Pink Diamond was her owner. A whole bunch of problems there, but we're not getting into that just yet. Soon though. But how again, like she felt like she had to be there for Steven to basically protect her son. And even though she does learn to be a little more independent, you still see those moments where she's kind of still that salty bitch over everything. The volleyball episode, which is the one that introduces Pink's original Pearl, like the pink Pearl, essentially. Um, when you see like some of the scenes where she's like, "Oh, that's so cute. You're still in love with her and all that," and I'm like, "Bitch, you realize this Pearl's been under White Diamond's control for who knows how fucking long, probably for thousands of years, and doesn't even remember that entire time in between. Like she probably like was given over to White." Doesn't realize what happened, and then next thing she wakes up and it's Steven standing in front of her, and it's like, what the fuck happened? Where am I? Kind of thing. I think my favorite line during that is volleyball telling Pearl, she's like, "I'm older than you," so casually, and then one of the volleyballs hits Pearl in the head, and I'm like, that just feels nice. That was a great moment. I can't remember what Pearl said to volleyball, but volleyball is just like, "I'm older than you," and one of the the actual volleyballs hits Pearl in the back of the head, and I'm just like, that was a perfect moment. And I felt that. I'm just like, yeah. It's like, you're trying, Pearl. You're trying, but you're just salty. It's okay. We know. You loved her too. But Pearl, like the Pearl, Pink Diamonds, Rose's Pearl, essentially. Like I don't mind her so much. It's I don't know. I feel like she's fine, but her character gets a little muddied here and there. Because, like, again, there's moments where she's more independent and free of the blind affection. Not really blind affection, but just the affection and love that she still holds for Rose and Pink. But then you see those moments where, like, it's not there, and, like, I wouldn't say she hates or, like, resents Pink by Rose, but I don't know. It gets a little weird here and there. I think it would have been nice if they like with the actual musical episode where they had it where she just that was indeed the moment where she let go and finally moved on. But there was then later on where she didn't really move on. Because I remember
When
again
you
like
say musical episode, do you mean the one where she's singing "It's Over, Isn't It" or whatever it was? Where she's like in the suit.
yes.
Okay, cool.
That's exactly. I feel like that is the perfect episode for it because again, she is lamenting on how Rose is gone, how she chose Greg over her, and that it basically is acknowledging that she was in love with Rose, but despite all the games that she played with these humans, Greg was the human that won Rose's heart, where she couldn't.
Yeah.
And they had their whole reconciliation between Greg and Pearl, but there's still episodes where you can kind of tell that she hasn't completely moved on, and there's still that I wouldn't say pining, but those feelings there. Again, like in future, the volleyball episode, the Rose Quartz episode. There was.
I feel like.
Go ahead.
I don't know, if they had done that, I feel like I might have liked Pearl a little bit more.
I do have to
But
agree there. I do like the other Diamond's Pearls too. Like Blue's
yeah,
Pearl is very quiet and reserved and very soft spoken. And I do think it's interesting how her eyes are always covered by her hair. I think that was a really cool design. And then
yeah.
Yellow's Pearl is just as arrogant and just very much like her Diamond. I'm like, I love it. Oh, I love it.
It's quite entertaining.
It's very entertaining. I remember with like the first episode where we actually see Yellow Pearl. Um, I remember like Yellow Diamond's telling Peridot off, and you just see Yellow Pearl kind of like slide into view with this very smug little smirk, and I'm like, "Ooh, I love you." Oh my gosh, some of the other pearls were nice. I will give them that, but
Yeah.
Pearl got
It
like
was nice.
it was
The
nice seeing
different, the
them.
different, yeah. Their different personalities was fun.
It's like they are all pearl, but they're all different pearls essentially. Like it was really
Yeah.
nice. It was really nice. Um, do you guys have anything to add on to Pearl?
Um, the one April Fool's episode they did where they crossed over that other
I refuse
show,
to
I
watch
couldn't.
that. I refuse because I hated Uncle
Yeah,
Grandpa. I absolutely hated
yeah.
that.
Oh God, they crossed
They get
over
trapped.
Steven Universe and Uncle
Uncle
Grandpa.
Grandpa, yes, they did.
It's
Oh
not
my
canon and it's an
God.
April Fool's Day episode, but I found it quite entertaining the way that Pearl went from like relatively calm and collected to just like completely fucking losing her shit in this void of nothingness. It was amazing.
I mean, to be
What the
fair, in
fuck?
the actual show, there's many moments where she's not as calm and collected as she should be, and she actually does kind of lose it. But I
And I
mean,
only
I can respect her. Plus, I do love her design. I can't at least say that much. So, go ahead, Raptor.
I was gonna say I have seen one episode of Uncle Grandpa, and I can proudly say I fucking hate that show.
No, I'm right there with
Yeah.
you. I hate it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I had a
Not
friend of
something
mine.
I would watch actively.
Yeah.
It's one of those shows that when it's on, you frantically rush to find the TV remote so you can change the channel.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Damn good thing that show only lasted a season.
Easy to see why.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
with nothing else to add to Pearl at this point, let's move into one of the other ones, Garnet, and also Ruby and Sapphire because they are Garnet.
Yes.
Skull, did you want to say something about them? I know you do.
Garnet's probably my favorite character in the show, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Elaborate.
I
Like,
do.
personality and design wise, just Garnet.
Okay. And Ruthless, what about you?
Also, I don't need to restate my opinion on strong women that can kick my ass.
Yes,
So.
we know.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, settle down, Raptor. What about you, Ruthless? What do you think of Garnet?
I think she's like a really cool character. Also, between her and Amethyst, yeah, I think that they're both one of my favorite characters. I know that's like I like Amethyst going. I'm just going off pure memory with Amethyst and Garnet.
Raptor, stop laughing.
Garnet is like a mama bear. I dare you to change my mind.
Okay. Raptor, if you're gonna keep laughing, mute your mic.
Yeah, I'm gonna be my mic.
Thank you. Alright,
Think about it. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
but I really don't have much to add to Garnet. I think she's just fine. I mean, she's pretty much that strong silent type for a lot of the show, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. I mean, Ruby's a hothead. I enjoyed that, and Sapphire's this really cool, elegant woman. I'm like, okay, I like this. So I mean, they're fine. Like, I have no strong opinions on her. Otherwise, like, she's fine.
Okay, I'm good now. I'm sorry, but strong woman that can kick my ass.
You're a dumbass.
Raptor,
Alright.
you wanna make a comment on that statement and judge me, and I'll tear you a new one.
I mean, I have no judgments because I've got Jasper over here, and I'm like, yes. And Zarya. Don't forget Zarya. Oh boy.
Uh,
I can't say much when I can't say much.
Exactly. See. All right. But then, so Garnet's pretty fast there. What about Amethyst? Personally, for me, I didn't really care for her. I actually kind of found her kind of annoying, but not as annoying as Steven.
Same.
I can kind of agree with you, but when it comes to design, I quite enjoyed her design.
It was pretty simple. Nice and
Yes.
simple. And Ruth, as you said, that Amethyst was one of your favorite characters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, admittedly, I kind
It's just the kind of thing like you just immediately like connect with a character and you're like, you're my favorite kind of thing.
honestly, it's kind of more like she kind of came off like with all of the interactions. What I remember, she came off as like a trickster, kind of like the trickster, kind of low-key energy, but dial down the weirdness.
Okay.
That's one thing I kind of liked, and it kind of gave me that energy of the character. So I was like, I like it. I don't know why.
Hey, that's fair. And I will say, like, it is nice, like, amongst, like, the trauma that they do share, like, Garnet's all about fusion, and that's its own thing, which, it was okay. I mean, eh. But with Amethyst, I can at least appreciate her, like, her insecurities and the shit that she was going through, how she was the result of bad things from the Gem Empire because they were stealing life from the planet just so she could exist, which can always lead you to feel bad, especially when you feel like that you don't belong or you're not wanted there or you don't fit in. So I do appreciate that later on she does come to love herself and accept who she is despite her origins and what she was made
I
for.
think, yeah. Honestly, okay, I might have a bit of a hot take, and this might be a hot take. I'm not sure if it is. I think they shouldn't have speed up the plot, and if it would end on an open note, I think the show would have been renewed. In my opinion,
I don't think
I think
so.
the show.
I really don't, because Cartoon Network did not handle the show very well, and they pretty much kind of
No.
yeah, no, I don't. It's Cartoon Network was a lot of the reasons for the problems,
Yeah.
amongst other things, but they were a big problem with it. So I don't think the fact that we even got Future was a blessing. I wouldn't even call that a blessing. It's the fact that Future even happened. So
Yeah, I kind of would say asterisk because I'm kind of using Young Justice as example because it's like one of those cases where it was canceled and then renewed and showed up on HBO Max. So that's kind of one reason why I kind of back in my head I would be like, there might be a chance. But
not with Steven Universe. Steven Universe had its issues. It finished. It's done. It's over. Thank
Yeah.
gosh.
I'm going to be honest here. When it comes to Cartoon Network, the only saving grace it has, at least for me, is the fact that they're still airing Ninjago.
That's fair. But
Wait,
I don't know.
I thought Cartoon Network didn't air Ninjago anymore.
No, they still are, as far as I know. I don't know. We can talk about this in the. We can
talk about
discuss
it
this
later.
in the eventual Ninjago episode because I'm going to do that at some point.
That took you so many tries to even say. I'm so sorry for you, Skull. But okay, so
I mean,
getting back on
I was
topic.
gonna.
mhm.
Who's talking? Shit.
Side characters.
Yes.
Side characters? Question mark.
Peridot.
Yes. I love Peridot's chaotic energy.
See, like, I will say,
For-
in terms of, like, the chaotic energy, I loved Peridot, because Peridot was very much a cat. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
like, the episode where she's, like, kind of exploring her new surroundings without her limb enhancers and basically trapped by the crystal gems. I love the one scene where she's watching, like, a bug fly, and she's like, I wonder if they can all fly, and how she approaches Greg, and she just, like, stares at him, and he's like, this is awkward, and she just pushes him off the roof. And Garnet's just like, you can't just shove people off roofs, and she's like, well, how am I supposed to know?
What?
Or she just acts
When
so
she
much like a
locks her-
cat, and it's
the-
great.
The episode where she locks herself in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. Tries to flush herself down the toilet.
Yes.
Oh
Oh,
my
that's
gosh.
what the HE double fuck that gif is.
Yes. That's exactly what that kid is. Trying to send herself down the toilet because she thinks she can escape that way. The Peridot was Peridot was great. I love Peridot. There's
Yes.
hold up. You guys share your thoughts on Peridot. There's something I want to see if I can find because there's like one scene that I absolutely
Here.
love.
Peridot is.
Oh, when
so
they put
someone
her
type
on
it
the
in chat
leash.
for me, 'cause-
Remember when they put her on the
Yes.
leash?
Oh my
Yeah.
god! Can you guys spell out her name for me, because she actually sounds
Peridot.
very entertaining. Just as it sounds, Peridot.
Yeah, Peridot. It's like the gem, literally.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with gems.
This is it. This is it. This is it. That's it. The hiss.
Yes. Yes.
Hiss. Peridot was fun. I will give them that. Like they at least
Yeah.
gave Peridot the development she pretty much deserved because Peridot was fun. She was energetic. She was worth
Definitely.
it. And obviously her adapting to Earth life was great, and her trying to explore her surroundings
Yes.
was also great. Ruthless, what do you think? What do you think of the green gremlin?
Yeah,
She's
it
basically
kind
a
of reminded
cat.
me of one character that always, like, I could not remember their name, and I remember them as Jim Goblin.
Yep, basically.
Yeah.
But
That's about
I like
accurate.
that character a lot. It's actually one of the side characters I also kind of liked. With Greg,
Yeah.
like really on top of like side, almost the same on Greg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Lotus.
Oh.
What about Lapis?
Oh, who's ready for another tangent? All right, I am. Okay.
Already.
So, I do love that Lapis was the first of the actual homeworld gems and like other gems that aren't corrupted that we were exposed to, because I immediately fell in love with Lapis the moment I saw her. Her theme, her design, her voice, her everything. I loved Lapis. And that love for her only really grew more as I saw her more and even as I started to grow up more. Because I definitely related with the trauma and how I do. I Skull knows this, how I very much kin Lapis. I can't speak. All right, I definitely do kin her because she was just there to do her job, but then she got caught up in the war and was mistaken for a rebel, and when they used her, she obviously couldn't help them, and then she was left behind, damaged, and just left there staring. Well, probably staring down more than anything. And it's a little hard to say because it looked like she was like face down, so where the mirror couldn't actually look up, but her gem was up because she got cracked, obviously. But how she was just there for thousands of years. I think it's like almost 4,000 or 5,000 years that she was there at that portal hub until Pearl eventually found her. And then, of course, she just like went back into like Pearl's Pearl. She went to Pearl's Pearl, so she didn't really get to do much. So when she actually did get a chance for freedom, she fucking took it. And Steven, at least give Steven that. He at least helped her. I'll at least say that. But just having to go through the changes that she did, because it's kind of sad how she's always been more of a prisoner. Like, even when she returns to Homeworld, she's held captive, she's taken into questioning and everything like that. Even when she returns to Earth with Jasper, she's still technically a prisoner and held in a holding cell. And that doesn't stop there either, because then she makes a self sacrifice by choosing to fuse with Jasper into Malachite, which, perfect gem for a toxic relationship, mind you, because it's a very toxic gem in real life. And how she, again, imprisons herself just to keep Jasper away from Steven and everyone. And then later you see that there's that fear that the diamonds are going to come back and all that, so much. And like her song Distant Shores, the part where she starts singing about how all the color and everything starts fading away and like just darkness is all she feels and sees. I oh my gosh. It's like you want to experience this world that you've never known before, but you're held back by your fears and your trauma and everything else about you. And you don't know if you can actually break free or if you're going to be chained back. I would have liked to see like a full completion to her arc, but I guess she kind of got it when she returned with the barn back to obviously stop the diamonds, which I will say is a badass moment for her because Blue. Okay, so Raptor, for some context, Blue Diamond has the ability to share her emotions with everyone, and for a large part of what we see of her, she's very sad, always crying, and things like that. So when Lapis does come back for like technically the final altercation on Earth. Because I'm not really counting the whole thing with White Diamond, because that's just something else. That's like trying to shoehorn everything in. Um,
Mm.
but when it comes to going against Yellow and Blue, when Blue uses her power, like saying, you cannot fathom how much I've mourned, what grief has done to me," which is powerful enough in itself. Because I'm like, she's not wrong. Blue is not wrong in any sense of the meaning. But what really makes it great is that all the gems get affected by this sadness because they've never felt the same sadness that Blue has. But Lapis just stands there and wipes away a single tear and utters the most perfect but heartbreaking line: "I've felt worse." That is a power
Oh.
move. It's sad, it's tragic, and I fucking love it. Lapis is by far my favorite character. I just wish she would have gotten the same kind of level of like care and effort put into her as Peridot did. But I'm happy with what I got at the very least. Lapis is a very damaged character. She is a traumatized character, and she is not willing to really move on from that trauma when we do see her. Because even when she's living on Earth with Peridot, she's very reserved. She doesn't open up. She's like easily agitated around other people that isn't Steven. I'm like, I relate. I so fucking relate because I was in the same kind of spot when I was younger. Like to my late teens and early 20s, I was in the exact same spot as her, and I'm like, mood. That is an absolute fucking mood.
Yeah, like, I remember you mentioning that Lapis Lazuli was your favorite character. Like, I always wondered, like, not long after we first met, when we played Minecraft, why you always called Lapis Lazuli.
And that's it, because it's obviously said in uh show, because it's lapis lazuli, not lapis lazuli. It's lapis lazuli. But that's
Yeah.
exactly why. But no, I can definitely say Lapis is by far my favorite character. But she's right. Oh, I say that, but I do like Pink Diamond as well, because again, like just everything about her was great. But Lapis, I've definitely, I've I relate to basically. But this is the moment I was talking about. Right after I shared the gif. But that moment was, oh, that power. I've felt worse. Like, ooh, power move right there. Fucking power move. But
Oh my god, this is only the GIF, and it's actually a little heartbreaking.
yeah. I mean, even with the context again, like I said, Blue Diamond had been grieving for Pink, and she loved Pink. You could tell like she was the closest to Pink Diamond. So she's been grieving this entire time, and obviously it's been hard for her to move on, and she hasn't moved on because she's still grieving for Pink. So that loss is enough to make the crystal gems and Steven kneel from that pain. But Lapis stands, sheds that single tear, wipes it away, and says, I've felt worse. That's why I say it is a power move. It is tragic. It is it's tragic, traumatic. It is everything. Like, oh, I love it. Lapis is amazing. At least in terms of character and how much I kin her. It's also the same reason why like, there's a few others, but you know, it's Lapis is nice. I like Lapis, but she's right up there with Pink Diamond, definitely.
Yeah, I just want to give her a hug.
Yeah, I don't know how much you actually want to hug her. She might, but Ruthless, what'd you think of Lapis?
Pretty decent. I kind of always thought she was like, really decent side character. Like I will say this. The side, you kind of reminded me why I thought the side characters of Steven Universe kind of were a lot better than the main characters because, let's face it, some of the main characters were just annoying.
Some of them were
Or just
definitely. Well, even like some of the other side, like the much more like minor side characters are a little annoying here and there, like the humans, basically. I will admit, like
yeah,
the episodes where it's just Steven hanging out with like the human buddies, I'm just like, I don't like this. This is boring.
yeah, I can't see it mainly because if you're not like seeing like I can see it from like story wise.
Mm-hmm. Especially since all we got later on was nothing but like filler episodes of that kind of shit, and I'm just like, why?
If there was
I
like
mean,
a
Oh yeah, I'm sharing the gif of like her first appearance in show. Just it
Have
was
we talked
perfect.
about
whoa.
Connie yet?
Who? Not yet.
Connie?
Yeah, we
Okay.
haven't got that far
I
yet.
have
We're
some
still on the
I have
gems.
some strong things to say about her.
All right, we'll get there soon. We're finishing up with Lapis. What are your thoughts?
Alright. Lapis was a really cool character.
That's about it.
I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of episodes with Lapis, but she definitely seems like an interesting character.
That's fair. Now the next one I want to talk about is Jasper.
Yes, another
So,
strong woman that could kick my ass.
oh,
Uh,
I'm right there with you. But I will
Mhm.
say Jasper is probably right up there with one of my favorites. Like, obviously, she's not quite my favorite, like Lapis is or Pink Diamond, but I can appreciate how tragic her character could have been. So, we don't really get too much context into Jasper until a little bit later. Um, but Jasper is very much seen as this very strong, uh, opposing threat that is very much dangerous to the crystal gems. So much that again that Lapis fuses with Jasper to turn into malachite and then chains themselves to the bottom of the ocean just to keep Jasper away from Steven and the crystal gems. That tells you how dangerous that Jasper could be. Well, we don't learn till later on that there was actually a second kindergarten on Earth. There was the Alpha one, which is where Amethyst was made, and then there was the Beta kindergarten where Jasper was made. And that kindergarten that Jasper was made in caused a lot of off-color or defective gems, essentially, where they didn't come out right, except for one, that being Jasper. Jasper was the best thing to the other diamonds to have come out of Earth. Because to them, and even like Peridot even states this too, Jasper is the perfect quartz warrior to have ever been made. Because when Peridot is examining the hole that Jasper emerged from, it's flawless. She cannot find any faults in Jasper's emergence and creation. Jasper is stated in the show to be perfect, and it's probably one of the only reasons why this perfect quartz is in the service of Yellow Diamond instead of Blue Diamond, who watches over all the other defective gems that came from Earth, as well as keeping the Rose Quartz soldiers bubbled. Jasper is the only one of these soldiers that we knew of to be the employment of a different diamond after losing her first diamond. Which, again, is also another tragic thing because Jasper was there when Pink was allegedly shattered, and how she has this heartfelt rage, contempt, and anger for Rose Quartz because Rose Quartz betrayed their diamond, betrayed everything they stood for, and dared to go against the person that brought them into existence. And this is all said as Jasper is turning into a corrupted gem. Like, there's so much that could have been done with Jasper, but we didn't get to see until basically future when there's like this whole little like mini redemption arc for Jasper where she helps Steven train to hopefully control his powers better, the ones that are more Pink's powers but are now merging more. But this ends up causing Steven to kind of go nuts with power and him shattering Jasper's gem. But it's okay because in future they figured out how to unshatter gems and put them back together, which, I mean, it makes sense. It's literally a gem. If you have all the right pieces, you can just put it back together. It's like it makes sense. I know some people didn't like it, but I'm just sitting here like it makes sense though, doesn't it?
It kind of does.
Can you even break a gem?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. And I know
Hard.
like a lot of people were going on like, but shattering was supposed to be like the final death and this horrible thing, and that's why the diamonds used as punishment. And I'm like, but if you keep this in mind, the diamonds also didn't believe in helping and healing. They were all about destruction, basically. So it makes sense that they wouldn't think about putting gems back together when they could just make more. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a very
yeah,
valid argument.
it's I don't know. It also just depends on how you look at it. But personally, for me,
Yeah.
But
Although it's possible. Now,
yeah,
if someone was trying to make the argument, I'd be like, okay, maybe it happens, but like their memory is screwed up.
no,
But
I don't think
I
that
mean,
happens. But
did they kind of like make a brief mention of like putting gem shards together with the whole cluster thing?
well, they did, but that was like forced fusion essentially, because they weren't the same gem shards. They were different gem shards. So as a result, it was a corrupted, forced fusion rather than actually putting the same gem back together as itself. Kind of thing. But yeah, they kind of did in that sense. But yes and a no kind of thing.
Well, yes, but technically no.
Yeah, well, yes, but technically no. But no, and then Jasper's arc just kind of concludes when she basically acknowledges Steven as her diamond. And yeah, like there was so much to so much potential to this character, but because I blame Cartoon Network more for this because I know Sugar had initially planned for a redemption arc for Jasper. Oh, excuse me. Um, but again, of course, network and all that fun stuff. So, um,
Mhm.
I like Jasper. I like where
Which
she
is
could have
funny
gone.
because
Yeah.
it's really funny because like with the whole canceling Steven Universe thing, I've heard rumors that they're
That they're what?
so
You cut out there.
I've heard
Cut out.
rumors that they're greenlighting a spin-off show for Lars.
Oh fucking hell.
no, just no.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's finish talking about gems before we get into the humans, and we'll probably talk as the humans as a whole, cause yeah. So we got Jasper. So let's do
Good.
these ones as a whole.
Okay.
The diamonds, excluding pink, but blue, yellow, and white. I want to hear what you
When I
two
think of
think.
White Diamond, all I think of is legs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The only thing about White Diamond is the legs.
I mean, she got killer style though. Like those shoes, I would wear those shoes if I could wear heels. What about the other diamonds? Because I want to hear what you two think first before I go on my tangents.
I don't know. I haven't seen a lot with the diamonds, like episodes that they're actually in.
So what does this diamond look like?
Hold up, I want to find a good one for white diamonds, so give me a second on that one.
My memory's really foggy with this one.
Really? Oh my gosh. I fucking loved white. Alright, well, what about the other two diamonds?
I knew. I knew
Yellow
what happened.
and blue?
Oh, White Diamond!
Oh my
Yellow
gosh,
and blue, they
Ruthless!
were like
Here,
they were
okay, here you
okay.
go. Here you go, Raptor. Here's White Diamond. But okay, so what did you think of them,
Please tell me
Ruthless?
this isn't something.
Okay, I thought blue and yellow were okay, but White Diamond, great villain.
Okay, those are legs.
Oh, no.
And then here is Blue Diamond for you, Raptor.
No, you don't get it.
I couldn't find the one
Get
where,
it, Raptor.
like, you know, it's her introduction where he's looking up at her. I know exactly what you mean by legs.
That's not what I mean by legs.
Why not?
Right?
Yeah. Alright, well, anyway, moving on. But,
No, I mean like.
no, moving
no,
on.
wait.
Moving on.
Wait, hold on. I'm
Moving-
curious.
No, talk about it later then. It's not important. I'm not gonna sit here and wait for Skull to stutter through his words as he tries to figure it out.
Oh
that is what I was thinking of.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
What?
What the fuck?
You couldn't think spaceship either in that sentence?
No, I just thought legs.
Oh
I
my.
thought about the stupid Voltron like mech and the stupid legs.
Well, moving on. Because I'm just
Please.
moving on at this point.
Let's wipe this from my mind.
You've already posted it. It's your own fault.
Yeah, you're the one who posted it. What are you talking about?
Voltron. Okay.
So, moving on, like you were saying.
Alright, so, my own tangents here. Just to get this moving on and to help Skull out, but I don't think that's possible at this point. Yes, you're welcome. So I will admit this.
Mean.
Tell me something I don't already know. Anyway, Yellow Diamond was the first one we are truly introduced to, and holy shit, I fucking loved her. I loved the bad bitch, no nonsense energy that bitch gave off. Like, holy fuck. And I'm just say this right now, she's got a nice little outfit. Like, again, if I could wear heels, I'd wear those boots in a heartbeat. I also have a thing for boots.
Are you talking about yellow?
Yes, I am. I just said she was the first one we were introduced to in the show, technically.
Oh, I thought you were saying white.
No, but white's the same thing though. But I loved yellow, and especially when it came to the showdown during Garnet's wedding when they were going against the spaceship, the armed spaceships, basically. I loved the scene where yellow busts out of her ship, and you just see her standing there, and her head's back, and she looks forward, and she's so fucking pissed off, and you see like electricity pass through her. I'm like, oh boy! I love Yellow. Yellow is just a bad fucking bitch who gives no fucking dams and will do what she has to. And it's fucking great. And I love her. Blue, I appreciate Blue. I like that she's the emotional one of the diamonds because you have logic, which is yellow. You have emotions, which is blue. And I don't know what pink's actually supposed to be. Like, I guess the grounded one. And then you have the high mind, which is white. But I can appreciate what blue is. She's okay. I mean, she's not my favorite, but she's okay. But I will say this right there with you, Ruthless. White Diamond would have been a perfect villain because from the moment she is introduced, it is fucking phenomenal. Now, Skull, I know you haven't seen very much with White Diamond, but let me just kind of like paint the scene for you. They've arrived on Homeworld, and there's crowds cheering the return of Pink Diamond. As they're standing there watching the crowds, kind of perplexed and confused, an orb comes to them, and it goes away, revealing a pearl with a gem on her stomach, very similar to how Pink Diamond's gem was on her stomach. And there's a crack right in her left eye, leaving only one eye actually functioning. She's standing on her tiptoes and her hands out and speaks in a voice that is not her own, requesting Steven's presence. Ignoring the other diamonds, despite their protests, she takes only Steven and goes into the head of White Diamond, like the White Diamond ship. And it's there that Steven sees White Diamond for the first time, where he looks up at this massive woman who's in a very similar pose as the Pearl. And the first thing that she says is, "There you are. Hello, Starlight." And I'm like, oh, and just her design, her voice, her demeanor, everything about her was perfect. It's just, oh. And seeing how, like, the only thing about her I didn't really like and how they handled is how she went on about being the perfect diamond, being every color. But when she was a different color, it was seen as wrong. But I'm just like, but you just said you're every color. How is that wrong? Like, you don't just have to be white if you're every color in the spectrum as a white diamond. Like, that part didn't really make sense to me, but I mean, you had to wrap up the show, I guess, and force on a whatever it's called, a conclusion. But oh my god, like the trauma that came from White 2 was even more phenomenal, because just that it, like, because the I don't know how many of you have actually seen like the full finale for the first like the season 5, the first series finale essentially, but the scene where she just grabs Steven so effortlessly, lifts up his shirt and uses her like talon like nails and rips the gem from his body. Like, oh my gosh, it was so great. Like, White could have been the perfect villain, because she's just, manipulative, takes whatever the fuck she wants, and is extremely destructive. Because it's almost hinted at that she's the reason why Homeworld is, like, the planet itself is broken into pieces. Because she was just angry. Like, she was angry one day that what's that happened. I'm like, ooh. Like, White could have been the perfect villain. And we just didn't have that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, I really kind of liked her as a villain, but I just wish there was more.
Definitely needed more. I don't really care for her as a what's this? Oh, there's a word for it. I don't really care for her as what she is now. I mean, she's still kind of how she was. She's still a little like, there's still like class. I guess she still sees like beings lower than her. She's just like, oh, yeah, no, kind of thing. But yeah, it's not the same. She worked better as a villain. I don't think they should have tried to do the whole redemption arc with her.
Yeah.
I think she should have stayed just a villain, and that would have been perfectly fine.
Also, it's kind of as bad as no. I stopped myself from a tangent. See, I'm doing better.
That's fair. I mean, tangents are fine so long as it's on
Give me
topic.
Kylo Ren PTSD.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But I think that's it, because I don't really want to bother talking about the off-color gems, because they were kind of just there for Lars for the most part. But what about the humans? And not including Connie in this. Connie will have her own skull. Just give it a minute. Just what about all the other humans? There was Lars, Sadie, the cool kids, the Fry Boy and the Fry Boy's
Onion.
brother. Onion was a monster. Oh my gosh. I liked Onion though. Like the quiet, manipulative little bastard that he was. And the fact that he's just a little kid, pretty much, but he's going around destroying everything and stealing. I'm like, okay, that's what we got here with this character. All right.
Onion's a little gremlin, and I fucking love it.
He's like the definition of the gremlin, and it is great. But I don't care for Sadie. I don't like Lars, and I don't care for the cool kids. Sour cream is cool though. I like sour cream.
Speaking of Lars, apparently the rumor thing apparently already happened, and it was like a 1-season show of like 100 and some episodes.
Ew.
Yeah. It actually happened.
Ew. Anyway. Yeah. I didn't like Lars, and to answer your question, sour cream was Onion's older brother. Like half brother, I should say. Because they shared the same mother, but their fathers were different.
Sour cream's dad, and the fact that he only spoke in like beeps.
Well, stepfather.
Or onions?
Yeah, Onion's father. Yeah, Onion's father, sour cream stepfather.
There's a dad. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
it's close enough.
Not the blood father, but a father.
Wasn't their mom friends with Amethyst?
Amethyst, yep. She used Amethyst as a model for her paintings.
Yeah, that one.
Any more?
I found Mayor Dewey to be really annoying.
He was very annoying. I will admit, I found his crush on Pearl hilarious as she kept shutting him down. That was amusing. I enjoyed that. He's just like, "Hey, so how you doing?" And she's like, "Oh dear lord." And I think it was the episode where like Steven and this one and then like the male guy were putting on a play about like
Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie. Like he and Jamie were like putting on some sort of play, and she was like sitting down. And she's like, "Oh yay, Steven!" Like a mother would, and he just comes up, sits right next to her, and she like just deadpans, gets up, and moves to a different seat. And I'm like, that's a mood, Pearl. That is a fucking mood.
My favorite interaction they had with Jamie was probably the one where he tried to ask Garnet out, and she was just immediately like,
No. I liked so my favorite interaction from that episode, speaking of it, was when Garnet was explaining that love takes time. And that you don't just immediately fall in love with someone at first sight, that you have to grow those feelings. And I'm like, beautiful, motherfucking beautiful. And then they kind of go against it a little bit in the movie where like it seems like they fall in love at first sight, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Never mind. Moving on from that though.
Yeah.
Any others? Any other humans we want to talk about that aren't Greg and Connie yet?
I don't like Ronaldo.
I don't like him either. He was very, very annoying. Even worse than like Mayor Dewey. Like he's on the same levels to me as Steven was. I hated the episodes when those two were together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, him.
The only episode I remember seeing them like interact like fully was the stupid lighthouse episode. They keep re-airing even though it's not a good episode.
Yeah.
Stupid. Just
it was bad. It was really bad. But yeah, no, I don't really have much of an opinion on any of the other human characters. They were just kind of there.
Yeah.
So, with that, what do we think of Greg, the father?
Greg. Or when I think of Greg, I don't know why, first thing that popped into my head was, "Are you my dad?"
Are you my dad? Oh gosh. What about you, Ruthless? What'd you think of Greg?
I think he's a decent, I think he's a decent character. I also, the time that I think the interaction with Steven is really good is when he's bouncing off of Greg. And I kind of like Greg because he's more of like it kind of reminds, it's kind of more of like he's like the decent father figure
He
that's
is.
always there for him.
Well,
He's a good
here's the
dad.
thing. So again,
Oh.
like of the things of Future I've seen, there's actually almost an episode where Steven is mad at Greg for how he raised him. And because it comes in the terms when you learn about how Greg was raised and how I can really relate to him on this up to a point because again like my sister broke my mother, so I got a little more leniency on this. But Skull, you probably could also relate to this a little bit too. But how Greg came from this very strict household, like held to a perfect standard. He had to do this and that and whatnot, and it's very constrictive, essentially. Like you were living
Yeah.
by the parents' mold, and you could not break free.
Yeah.
And you can really see it in the way that he raises Steven, because he gives Steven that freedom. Like, sure, Steven doesn't quite have the discipline, and again, it shows, but that's because Greg wanted Steven to have more freedom. And Steven gets mad at Greg for this because he didn't like he wanted something more than what he got. Like he wanted that kind of like discipline and things like that. Like kind of like what Greg got, but Greg's like I don't want that for you. And like I can relate to that cuz I'm like, dude, I feel that like if I ever raise a kid, I would not want to raise them how I've been raised, with the strictness and having to live by a mold that you can't break from. And then once you start breaking from it later in life, you realize that trauma's still there and it's hard for you to fully break free and how you're
Yeah.
still stuck. So, like, I can
Yeah.
appreciate Greg for that. Like, for even if Steven doesn't appreciate it at this point in his life, because that's always how it is. When you're a teenager, you don't appreciate anything until you're a little bit older.
Yeah.
But I can really respect Greg for doing that, for trying to raise Steven his own way and this way that gave him freedom where he didn't have that when he grew up. So I can really respect that. Because that's
Yeah.
obviously it's what a lot of people parents try to do. They try to like not do what their parents did. They try to do it in a more like healthy manner, but sometimes they may overcorrect, which Greg kind of did. But live and learn.
Mhm.
But I can definitely say Greg is a nice one.
He's a good dad. He tries.
He does.
Tries.
He's there for Steven. He is always there to like
Mm.
teach him a life lesson when he's able to. And like he's actively in his son's life at the very least. They may not live together because again,
Yeah.
like circumstances are different for Steven because obviously he's a gem and he needs to be raised by gems so he can learn how to use his gem powers. So like it's understandable that he wouldn't be living with Greg. And plus Greg lives out of his van.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's
So,
always trying to
Not sustainable for child.
no, it's not. Which, I mean, to be fair, when Steven was younger, he was living with, what was it, Vidalia or whatever her name was? Like, Sour Cream's mother?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, at least he had friends in Beach City that were at least willing to help him out, so.
Mhm.
That was the one good thing. But Greg's probably one of my favorites. I can appreciate him. He was smart. He knew what he was talking about a lot of the time. And, yeah, I really appreciate Greg. He was a good character.
Mhm.
Now, I know a certain someone has words they want to say about Connie.
I started
Who's
out liking
Connie?
Connie, and
Okay.
then with the episodes that I turned into a deep seething hatred for her.
Okay,
She was just overly petty. Yes, Steven didn't handle certain situations that happened, but the way that she reacted to certain things, yes, they were kids. I understand that. But, like, the fact that she didn't take the time, and I guess Steven didn't handle the situation well either, but, like, he was trying to protect Connie, and she was super fucking childish and petty about how he dealt with it instead of, like, just.
Again, it still falls on him too for not really explaining the situation either. because he's the one that pushed her away without
Yeah.
explaining things. So like, you can see why she did it, because he's not communicating. Like, if someone tried to push me out of their life for no fucking reason and didn't give me a fucking reason, I'd be like, what the fuck, bitch? And like, well, at the same time, I have master detachment, so like, if you push me out, I'd be like, okay, bye, bitch. So, or I can easily just push you out of my life. Either way works. But no, I can kind of see where she's getting from with that, because if I was younger, I'd be doing the same thing as her. So, but I'm not younger, so I don't give a fuck anymore.
Just
But Connie, essentially, Raptor, is the best friend to Steven, who he meets later on, not really later on, but fairly early, who obviously does become later his love interest in, like, future, essentially. So it's like a childhood romance almost. Almost, because again, they met when they were like 13, 14, so there's like teenagers, technically. Like, they're preteens, technically. But, I guess I don't know. It depends on who you ask. I guess it's a childhood romance, but it's like preteen, so like kind of.
it's early enough.
Yeah, it's early late enough. It's kind of like a mix of both.
Sorry, I've gotten myself incredibly annoyed. There are certain other things too. Just
I mean, I find her inoffensive, and she helps with developing certain characteristics in Steven, which I can appreciate. But yeah, I mean, they basically write her out of the Steven Universe movie and Steven Universe Future, basically. So I'm just like, oh, okay, never mind.
Oh, that's Connie. Yeah, I just looked her up.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I kind of agree that like Connie was okay at first, and then as time goes along, it feels like CW drama, and if you ever heard, and I'm not just pretty much just stupid drama, and I was like, eh.
yeah.
See, I don't mind drama because I've been exposed to CW shows, and they're like the shows from there, the drama from there is like
Let's not forget
so.
comic books.
I am avoiding a tangent. I'm avoiding it very much, so it's very tempting.
But it is. I mean,
I don't know. It's just I saw the episode "Sworn to the Sword" or whatever, where like Connie takes up sword fighting, and from that episode and the handful that I've seen, there's just certain things about Connie that really piss off.
okay, so I'm a little curious when it comes to Sworn to the Sword, because I actually genuinely enjoyed what that one was, because Pearl was essentially almost brainwashing Connie into the fact that Connie has to be the one to protect Steven, just like how Pearl was the one to protect Rose. But the difference being is that Pearl's body was able to regenerate when destroyed. Connie doesn't have that luxury. So Steven, of course, realizes obviously like that issue with it. But when you're Connie being fed all this stuff from Pearl, like your teacher, your mentor, like you're gonna take it fully at that age. Like you're gonna take it all the way to heart. So I can appreciate that episode for what it was. So I am curious as to why that episode triggers such hatred towards Connie for you.
I don't know. It's just like after that and like the arc she goes through and sort of how she reacts to certain things, and just like
You just don't like it.
I can't even really like. Yeah, there are certain characters that I just kind of get to this point where it's just like deep hatred.
And Connie is
and
definitely
I
one of
don't
those.
fully understand why. Yeah. I don't like Connie. I'm sorry if I'm offending people, but like, whatever.
Yes, I feel like we're gonna have a fun conversation like that, Skull, when I get to talk about Miraculous with Ruthless.
Oh boy.
Okay.
You already know my full opinion on the show
Cat
from what
Noir
I've
good,
seen so
Ladybug
far.
bad. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll have all that soon, alright?
Stay
Soon.
soon, viewers. Subscribe.
Oh my gosh, why?
Same plug here.
Alright.
Yeah, let's just do what like all big YouTubers do.
Please
Don't
don't.
forget
Oh my
to like and
god.
No,
subscribe.
no! Don't stop.
No, if you want to subscribe, subscribe. It's not gonna be like a thirsty thing.
If we can get to 12
Anyways,
likes, that would be awesome.
where were
Oh,
we?
shut the fuck up.
Raptor,
Raptor,
shut up!
all of you, quiet time in the corner.
I'm sorry, I just felt like adding fuel to the fire.
Oh my
I just had
gosh.
We
to.
gotta sell out. We got to sell out. After all, we need more clicks.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Raptor and Ruthless to the corners now.
Come on, we're lucky to get 12 views. Come on.
Oh my gosh. Alright. Alright.
And it's also a few
Okay,
likes.
Shut the fuck up, everyone.
Be patient for Connie. Miraculous episode coming sometime soon.
Can we do it next
Where
week?
were we? I got sidetracked. We could.
I'd love to. Or if hell, if we could even record again like sometime, that'd be nice. Like I have so much I can go off on, and so can Ruthless. It'd be so much fun. Well, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But okay, so Connie,
Yeah.
Ruthless, Skull,
Mhm.
continue sharing your thoughts, or share your
I-
thoughts. Or if
I
you shared
will
everything,
admit,
pass the baton.
as much as I don't like Connie for like what I've seen so far, I really do like her design. It's simple, but it's like,
It's simple.
I don't know. It's a nice design.
What about you, Ruthless?
Okay. I gotta actually. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm just gonna just make it a similarity. It's kind of as bad as like Ben 10's ships. It's kind of bad, but like from the start, it was like decent. Like it has like the same syndrome that Ben 10 went through, of like kind of just that character started out good, and then eventually just was like, oh, wasted.
Yeah, I can actually agree with that because again, like I said, they wrote her out of the Steven Universe movie, saying like she was going off to like some sort of school or camp, and I know in future they wrote her out as well because she was getting ready to go to college and everything like that. So I can definitely agree with that. Yeah, she was started out good, but then they kind of threw her aside.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. Cartoon Network, please stop doing the whole protagonist always have to have like a fucking
Love interest.
love interest. Yeah, like
And better yet, stop airing Teen Titans Go constantly all the goddamn time.
Okay, stop. Stop.
that's
Stop.
another topic.
That's a
that
whole
much other
that's a
than-
whole nother thing later, alright? We're not gonna get into that here. That's a whole different thing. But so with us going into the characters, we've also touched upon the plot, which most of us already know it. We've seen a good share of the fandom and episodes and everything like that. Raptor, obviously, you're still not quite exposed to it because you know how you were raised. You
Yeah.
get to truly experience the world like a big boy. Is there anything else you guys want to say regarding Steven Universe?
Thinking about it now, the one thing I actually have to take back one of my statements. I think the most egregious character that I just flat out did not like is Connie. Thinking about it now, just it feels like it's just massively wasted.
Okay.
and it just feels the whole trend, that whole trend of like the main character having a love interest and then just being wasted, just like frustrating as fuck.
Okay. Skull, do you have any closing thoughts on Steven Universe? Yes, no, maybe so? Skull?
Jane.
Don't,
Oh my god, I was muted, Raptor. Why would you say my name? Damn it, I was muted. Lion. I like Lion.
Lion was cat, cat was good.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
what you can really
exactly.
say about it. Any other closing thoughts? Yes, no, maybe so?
Not really.
Okay.
I will say, the franchise, the show was good. Like it was good for the time.
It's
Like I
good for
can't
the
always.
time, but then when you try to go back and rewatch it, it does not really hold up.
It does not hold up. But granted, I am not gonna. I will say, it's not 100%. Like it's not terrible, but
It's
it's
not, but
actually.
like, it's not that good either. That's the
I'm
problem.
gonna say from the perspective of like looking at some of the shows, TV kiddie shows like just comparing them now and Steven Universe, it can hold up a little bit higher than those shows.
Oh, just
Some of the kiddie shows.
yeah, but
Now,
it just kind of depends, and depends on what kind of kids shows you're talking about, because it was made. You could tell it was made for older kids, not like
yeah,
younger kids, but it was definitely made for older kids. But
Yeah.
it was definitely good for the time, revolutionary even. But I can easily say that it doesn't quite hold up. It's not as good trying to rewatch it. Like some episodes are still good, but then when they like try to rewatch like the first season, it's like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest here. I have a hard time. Like, I've been trying to watch through the show for the first time, and I've had such a hard time actually finding motivation to want to watch it.
Yeah, that's what. It's
I
definitely one of
mean,
those.
I've seen reruns of like parts of the major plot lines later in the show, and that's
That's
really
basically all
all
you need to
that
see.
matters.
That's all it really is. But I
it's
said all
such
I
a
had to.
shame though.
That's kind well. We can have a whole tangent on that kind of thing for another day of wasted potential in shows because of one thing or another.
Yeah.
But I've said everything I need to. Do you guys have anything to say before we close out here? Going once, twice.
Not really. I've said all I need to say.
All right. Raptor's been our peanut gallery. Ruthless. How about you?
I honestly just don't have anything else other than just could have been DC show if it condensed a little bit more and
Less network
condensed it
interfering.
in less and network. Yeah, like I think I think okay, I'm gonna say this. I universally hate filler episodes. I generally do.
I think a
Like
lot of us can say that. But
I
I can.
mean, it's generally a thing with like pretty much any TV show, really. You're gonna have filler episodes here
You
or
are.
there.
I mean, even as a writer, I've been guilty of making fluffy chapters. But, and I put a big but here, it's fine so long as it helps to progress world building, character, or plot. You can have a filler episode and do
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Yeah.
Also, I would also say like depends on the pacing. Like
No,
if
that
it's
too.
like
If it was more
like
slice of life, it wouldn't be
yeah,
so bad. But
yeah.
they were clearly trying to
Yeah.
go for something later on that made the slice of life not as great.
Yeah.
I think the show.
Also,
Yeah.
don't go for Uncle Grandpa episode, please.
It's non-canon.
Like,
You can skip
just
it.
don't. But still, just don't.
Yeah,
I don't even want to think about that.
you don't. But if that is all, we can close out.
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
This has been a fun 11th episode. Hope I'm right there.
Yes, it's 11.
Okay, thank you. This has been fun talking about Steven Universe, mostly about the characters, because I mean, the plot's very simple. What else can we say? But it's been Lotus, Skull, Raptor, and Ruthless. And you guys have a good night, morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever the case may be, wherever you are. You have a good day.